So I've mentioned this a few times now, but The Promised Neverland Season 1 was my favorite anime of 2019. It was literally my anime of the year in 2019. Will this be my sequel of the year? Will this be my sequel of the year? Honestly, this is a pretty good start. With that said, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is JoJo, and as you can see, I am a zombie. But I'm also a big otaku, so don't worry, if you are one of us, I shall not eat your brains. Probably. But also welcome to what will be our weekly Promised Neverland Season 2 discussion videos. Today we're going to be talking all about Episode 1, but before we get into it, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet, to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, let all of AniTube know that you're here. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. That said, if you're like me and you have slight arachnophobia, brace yourself, because I'm about to show something spooky. So... I say arachnophobia, but it's not quite that. You know, it's not quite spider-like. But it's enough. It's close enough. God dang, that monster is freaky looking. It kind of reminded me of like the xenomorph in what is it? Not Prometheus, whatever the other one was. It kind of reminded me of that, like sort of like that sort of like crawling xenomorph thing, mixed with like a giant Shelob-esque spider. Just no. And people wonder why I'm not going to be talking about So I'm a Spider, So What? At least not in its own video. I probably will be talking about it in the podcast. But regardless, yeah, I have a pretty intense case of arachnophobia, and you can imagine how the Demon Slayer arc, where they went through all the spidery forest, how that treated me. So you can kind of imagine how I was here. In fact, in my reaction, I even had like my live reaction I put out yesterday. I even said like, "Oh no!" Like, yeah, just immediately like, "Yikes!" No, I don't like that. I mean, I do, because it's making me like hella scared, because I feel like that's the intention. But yeah, it is very spoopy. That said, it was a perfect cold open. Oh my gosh, this was like such a good cold open. Because like you just see the kids like running, right? And you're like, what are they running from? And you don't know. And then as it keeps going and going and going, you're like, oh no. Like, what is it gonna be? And then you see Emma say like, don't worry, just pretend like it's a game of tag. And I was like, I remember tag, how wholesome. I mean, it's not, even then it wasn't wholesome, but I remember when you guys would play tag and we would run from Crone, and I'm sure whatever's chasing you isn't as scary as Crone, and oh my god, it's absolutely terrifying. I was like, I want no part of this. This makes me insanely uncomfortable. I want no part of this. This is spoopy. And like the tension in this scene is perfect, right? Because like they open with this cold open of like, what is chasing them? Oh god, it's scary, right? And then we kind of ease back into the characters after that, right? We have that scary moment. I believe the OP plays, and then we cut back, and it's just them sort of like still on the run, you know, from the farm, and they're just sort of like making their way downtown, except they're making their way through the forest, walking fast. Spiders pass, and they're hopefully homebound, and yeah, just very spoopy. Right, because again, like it's a cold open, and then you sort of ease back into the characters, but you can tell something's wrong. And then that scene where Ray and Emma are like, something's up, right? And then there's like a gust of wind, and it blows out the light, right? And then all these fireflies show up, and immediately Dawn's like, we're getting the hell out of here, right? And everybody starts running, and then you see it, and then you're back in the cold open. You're like, oh man, like what's going on? And the tension is just insane. It's palpable, I say. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. It's brutal. Just like, I was so certain somebody was gonna die. Like, I was so positive somebody was gonna go out. Because like, not one of like the main four, like I wasn't expecting Gilda, Dawn, Ray, or Emma to go out. But I was expecting one of the side characters to go out, right? Like one of like the kids who like have names, but I'll admit I don't remember. Even in the reaction video I posted, I had to admit that I couldn't remember Dawn and Gilda's name for a second because it had been so long. And that's not an insult to the show, it's just, or those characters, it's literally just, I am terrible with names and will forget. It's part of the reason why I give nicknames all the time, because it's just easier for me to remember that way. That said, yeah, the tension was absolutely insane. And I have to give my shout out to all the characters, like Emma attempting to stay positive, but then eventually like passing out, and Dawn being an absolute boss, like leading the escape, like with like hand signals and stuff. I gotta give them all credit. But Ray in particular was an absolute boss. Now, if you follow the channel like closely and you watch the Annie list video, specifically my top 300 characters list, you'll know that Ray is in there. In fact, he's in my top 10. I adore Ray. Like, Ray is like my son, you know? Like, Ray, Norman, and Emma are like my precious kids, you know? Like, I would die for those characters. Dawn and Gilda I like quite a bit too, you know? And Phil, young Phil, like all these kids, right? Even the ones that have names that I forget, a lot of them I like a lot. Like the blonde kid, and his buddy with the like kind of like messy black hair, and like all the kids. I'm like I'm not usually a kid person. It's hard for me to root for a kid character, right? Like I don't like, I just find kids annoying, right? Like kids typically bug me. It's like, if you watch my bookworm videos, you know that I find kids unbearably annoying. But I don't feel that way with the Neverland cast. I don't know necessarily what it is that differentiates them from other kid characters, but they feel not only more like kids that I've met, you know, like when I was a kid, but they also just feel sort of, I don't know, endearing, right? Like there's something about Dawn, Gilda, Ray, and Emma that you just sort of like care about them, and you want to see good things for them. And of those characters, and not Norman too, who I refuse to believe is gone. We'll get into it when we talk about the Edie. But Ray is my favorite of like that cast, right? Ray, I just find so interesting, his dynamic with Isabella, and just like this slow burn from being sort of in on it to then actually like trying to help. Like, I like that he was sort of working with Isabella and then tried to like turn into a good person, or at least like tried to help them, and now is like fully committed, right? He even saying like, I will do anything I can to protect this family. Ray in this episode just goes above and beyond in every capacity, right? I made him the thumbnail for a reason, right? Him and that dude chasing them have like such a good back and forth where they're like, I know you're there, you may as well come out. And Ray's like, yeah, about that, the others are all dead, so if you want me, you're gonna have to come and get me. And he shows the tattoo, and he's like, oh, you're a top grade too. And then Ray just books it, right? And Ray's smart enough to like trick the freaky demon horse things into like running into trees and stuff. And like Ray's very, very capable, right? Like even like tricking the big spider thing to like chase them or chase him until like the one pursuer like chops the demon spider thing's head off. It's like Ray just is in top form this whole episode, and I just had to give my boys some praise because he totally deserved it. Ray is an absolute boss from like start to finish through this episode, even catching the new characters before they could even explain to them what's going on. Ray catches on as to what's happening, and I love that. I love that Ray is just constantly like a few steps ahead, right? Emma's smart too. Emma's brave too, right? Like so is Dawn, so is Gilda, so are all the kids, and Norman, but Ray just always feels like 2 steps ahead. You know, like if I might borrow a character from another favorite show of mine that's also coming back, Ray feels like this group's Senku without being the main character. Like, that's sort of how Ray feels to me. He feels a lot like Senku in the sense that he's always a few steps ahead. He's always like the man with the plan, and he's always brave and ready to kind of jump into danger if he knows that he can maybe get away. And I sense that both in Senku and in Ray. And I just think Ray is just a friggin' badass, and I had to gush about my son, my precious boy. But as I said, Ray does catch the new characters, right? And let's go ahead and talk about them. I don't have as much to say about them, but I do want to talk about them because I find them very interesting. And I don't know the one character's name, so I'm just going to call her the Cloaked Girl for now. And then I believe the other guy's name is Sonju. I could be wrong with that. Sunju? I'm going to say Sonju until I'm proven. Until I'm not proven, but until I'm corrected otherwise. I'm just gonna call him Sonju. And Sonju is a friggin' badass. Sonju's basically just like, basically saves Ray. at one point, where Rei gets cornered, and the one dude who's like pursuing them sort of catches him, and he's like, all right, you fought hard, but this is it. This is the end of the line. And Rei's like, I made a promise, right? And then Sanju shows up and saves him, right? Like, and he's sort of, he rides in on horseback. I'm gonna say horseback in air quotes. You can't see it, but just know that I'm air quoting. Dude rides in on horseback and has like smoke bombs with him, like he's friggin' Batman or something. And in Dark Knight Returns, just like riding on horseback, throwing smoke bombs. And he actually gets away, and I'm kind of impressed. And I honestly think that he's probably going to be like the group's heavy, right? Like, I do think that ultimately these two are here for are they here for good reasons? I think that they'll ultimately be a benefit. That's what I'll say, because we'll get into it in just a sec as to what they are. But Sanju appearing was kind of cool. And then the cloaked girl showing up, right? The cloaked girl seems nice enough, but there is something vaguely sinister about her, right? Like, when the group sees her from afar, and they're like, and like, obviously Dawn's just like, we're saved, right? But Gilda, again, and this is, each character, each of the main four at least, gets us a moment to show why they're part of the main four, right? Like Dawn with the hand signals, Emma with her constant positivity, Rei being a friggin' badass, and then Gilda rightfully snuffing out that something's wrong, right? She's like, who are you, right? And then the cloak girl just kind of smiles, and again, that's why I was like, sinister. Don't know how I feel about that. But they do heal up Emma, right? And they do leave Rei in a room so that he can wake up and like let her rest and wake up, because he obviously tuckers himself right the hell out. I would have passed out after that chase too. And as they're walking along, right, they sort of bump into them, right? Because Rei and Emma are like, where are we? And they bump into the cloaked girl. And Sanju's kind of walking behind them, and Rei's like, so, why are demons helping us? And she's like, huh? Right? And he's like, yeah, you think I didn't notice? And you see that she has the friggin' weird, like, demon foot thing. And Emma's like, oh no, right? And then Rei's like, okay, so you're gonna tell us what's going on? And I'm like, oh my god, they're demons! Like, okay. When I saw this, I was so sure that they were working with Minerva, right? But when she says, like, Minerva, I don't know who that is. And I'm like, oh, okay, well then who are these people? And I think that was the like, that must have tipped Rei off. Like, okay, they don't know who Minerva is. And then when he looks down, he catches that, like, they have, like, the weird, creepy demon feet. And he's like, okay. Like, something's up. And I love this twist. I think this twist is so clever. Like, there's something about it that just super works, right? That I'm like, oh my god, they're demons. But, like, I don't necessarily think they're bad, right? Especially judging off the ED. They don't seem evil, per se. I'm at least not getting, like, evil vibes from them. And I have pretty good evildar. So I'm like, I don't necessarily sense evilness from these characters. I do sense a vague sinisterness from these characters. Like, something about them isn't quite right, and I can definitely get that, but I don't necessarily think they're bad. I wonder if maybe, like, there's something. My guess, again based off the ED, is that maybe the cloaked girl became friends with the human and then realized what they were doing was wrong, and somehow brought Sanju along with her. That's sort of my guess. And speaking of things that are wrong, you know what else is wrong? The fact that you haven't hit subscribe yet. You want me to tell Rei that you haven't hit subscribe yet? You want me to tell Best Boy that you're letting him down by not subbing to the zombie boy? Do the right thing. Hit that subscribe button. And the last thing that I want to talk about, the OP and the ED, and thank goodness they're both great. I was admittedly a little bit worried, right? Because I didn't love the ED last season. I thought it was really good, but it's not like my favorite ED of 2019 or anything. But the OP is up there, man. Touch off like that na 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 na. So fire. Like I could still hear it in my head, right? It's like and I think visually speaking, the first OP is super solid, but I genuinely think that the second OP, visually speaking, is stronger. In the first OP, you do have that insanely good shot of Isabella, like, clamping down on the watch, and then you see the butterfly's wings get clipped. And we know eventually what that's in reference to when Emma gets her arm broken. or was it her leg? I don't remember. Like something like Isabella breaks Emma basically, clipping the butterfly's wings, right? And it's such a good metaphor. And I have but I think that they were like, okay, let's do that, but like the whole OP, right? Like the whole OP feels very metaphorical, right? And the song is super good. Do I think it's as good as Touch Off? No, right? Because Touch Off is like na 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 na. That was like a fire in a bottle OP. You know what I mean? Like that track is stupendous. But I think the visuals in this OP are a little bit stronger. So it's sort of like a trade-off, right? The visuals are stronger in OP2, but I think the track is stronger in OP1. That said, I also got to point out the fact that there's like an older-looking Emma and Ray at the end of the OP. Like, it's not my favorite shot. My favorite shot is probably the one that I'm showing on screen, where it's all the kids like reaching forward. Like, that's super cool. But the older-looking Emma and Ray has me very curious, right? Like, I'm like, okay, are we getting a time skip? Again, I'm anime only, if you didn't know. But I'm like, are we getting a time skip? Like, what's going on, right? Like, because, like, Emma's hair is, like, a bit, like, it looks more grown in, and there's, like, a braid, and then Ray just sort of looks more sort of tired, you know? Like the world is weary. Like, he's like, on Ray, you know? Like, he looks more world weary by the end of the OP. So I'm like, okay, an older looking Emma and Ray. Does that mean we're getting a time skip? And does the fact that we only see an older Emma and Ray bode poorly? You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I'm vaguely concerned that we only see an older Emma and Ray. But that's fine. I'm sure it doesn't mean too much. But again, anime only, do not tell me things. If you're new to the channel, what we do here, if you are in fact a manga reader, I do not fault you. This is a me thing. I personally don't enjoy manga. I don't really vibe with it. However, I know a lot of people do. What we do here is, if you have read the manga, don't actually tell anybody what happens. Don't actually correct anybody. All you gotta do is type out asterisks, laughs in manga, or cries in manga, whatever you want to say, blank in manga, asterisks. So just asterisks, blank in manga, asterisks. That's all you gotta say, because other manga readers will know what you're talking about depending on what you fill in the blank. You know what I mean? The rest of us will just kind of be confused, which is how we should be, right? Because you don't want to. I know that you don't want to ruin the fun, so you know, do that thing. Like, that's what you do around here if you're a manga reader. That said, I do want to quickly talk about the ED. I think the ED is way better than ED1. If I'm super honest, and I know some people are gonna be upset about that, I think ED2 is way better. I think visually speaking and track speaking, especially the track, oh my god, the ED's like the ED absolutely slays. Like, it's fantastic. I think the ED is great. I'm a huge fan. The art is phenomenal, but what I love is the choice in colors. All of the artwork and like the background art in the ED is fantastic. I love the metaphor where like the cloaked girl, right, the cloaked demon, she has like her arms outstretched. She's like walking along with Sanju, but her shadow casts across because her arms are outstretched. And you're like, oh, metaphor, right? Like, I wonder what that's a metaphor for. And we're sort of a metaphor for it. And we're getting little hints, right? Like, again, as I said, like the ED sort of hints at what could possibly be going on. And to me, the biggest thing, and prepare, like, rip in pieces headphone users because I'm about to scream, but is that my boy Norman? Like, I freaked out. I was like, is that Norman? Like, okay, if you watch my old animated videos, because when Promised Neverland was coming out, I didn't do these full-length videos. I did animated videos where it was like 1 minute episode reviews. And if you watch those, you'll know that I love Norman, right? And I refused to believe he's gone, right? I was like, I refuse. I ain't see no body. Listen, I come from the rule of thought where if I don't see a body, the character ain't dead. So for me, I'm like, I didn't see no body, so Norman ain't dead. And I see Norman in the ED, and I'm like, why else would you put him in the ED? Again, manga readers, keep it to yourselves. But my boy ain't dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, anime only, I just refuse to believe it. I refuse. Until they show me Norman's corpse, I refuse to believe he's gone. And that's the T. But with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up today's video here, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and set notifications to all. Let all of AniTube know that you're here. And before we go, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names, and hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are now 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that join button right beside the sub button to get a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course your name scrolling past the screen here. Or you can check out that Patreon link in the description. Either way, it is super appreciated. So once again, a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron, and that is it for me. So until next time, you stay classy, AniTube. Wash your dang hands, and avoid going into the forest, for there'll be giant freaky spider monsters in there. Yeah.